Good evening, everyone. The Internal Quality Assurance Cell of St. Xavier's College for Women monitors the quality of all the endeavors of the institution. Composed of a group of dedicated women, it strives to maintain international standards in its initiatives and activities. Expertise is an event that brings together experts from various walks of education in order to train teachers to cope up with the rising demands of pandemic era teaching. Dr. Sister Gigi Jonama Xavier, our beloved principal, is the source of inspiration for all the endeavors taken up by the IQAC. She always motivates and supports the IQAC to take up new initiatives. On behalf of all present here, hearty welcome to you, sister. Dr. Bhasi is a professor and expert in engineering and management with experience in academics, industry, and consulting. He is also a fellow of the Indian Institution of Industrial Engineering and chairman of its Kerala chapter. A renowned teacher, researcher, and administrator with over 30 years of teaching and research experience. He has been the Dean and member of Cochin University and Kannur University syndicates. He was the Managing Director of Consumer Fed Kerala. During this period, many new projects were implemented and turnover increased by 3 times. Currently, the Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences and member of Syndicate of QSAT. St. Xavier's College and expertise is enriched by the presence of a scholar and administrator like him. We are extremely honored to have you among us, sir. On behalf of principal, management, and all present here, I extend hearty welcome to you, sir. Dr. Sister Stella, our vibrant vice principal, is always there to encourage and support the activities of IQAC. Hearty welcome to you, sir. The success of any program is the presence and active participation of its members. Thank you, dear colleagues, for joining on time and being present here for this session. I cordially welcome each and everyone to this program. Once again, welcoming you all, the entire Xaverian family, to this program. Thank you. May God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Our inspiration, our guide and guardian, the real spirit behind all our endeavors is our beloved principal, Reverend Dr. Sister Gigi Jonama Xavier. Our dear principal's commitment and sense of perseverance towards all academic pursuits deserves genuine acknowledgement. I invite our beloved principal for the presidential address.
Good afternoon, all. Aluva St. Xavier's College IQAC team കാലത്തിനൊത്ത് മുന്നേറുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ സ്ഥാപനത്തിന്റെ സർവതോന്മുഖമായ വളർച്ചയ്ക്കും വികസനത്തിനും വേണ്ടി യത്നിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ടീം ആണ്. ഇതിന് നേതൃത്വം നൽകുന്ന ഡോക്ടർ ഷീന സേവ്യർ തന്റെ നേതൃത്വ പാഠവും കൊണ്ടുതന്നെ എല്ലാവരെയും ഒരുമിച്ച് കൂട്ടി സമയാസമയങ്ങളിൽ ആവശ്യമായ നിർദ്ദേശങ്ങൾ നൽകി ഓരോ സമയത്തും ആവശ്യമായ സെമിനാറുകളും FDP പ്രോഗ്രാമുകളും ഒക്കെ നൽകിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ആദ്യമേ തന്നെ എക്സ്പെർട്ടീസ് എന്ന പേരിൽ നടത്തുന്ന 1 വീക്ക് FDP പ്രോഗ്രാമിന് നേതൃത്വം നൽകുന്ന IQAC കോർഡിനേറ്ററിനെയും ടീം മെമ്പേഴ്സിനെയും ഞാൻ ഹൃദയപൂർവ്വം അഭിനന്ദിക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ COVID-19 എന്ന മഹാമാരി നമ്മെ പലതും പഠിപ്പിച്ചു. ഈ അക്കാഡമിക് ഇയറിൽ നാം ആദ്യമൊക്കെ ക്ലാസ് റൂം ഇല്ലാത്ത കുട്ടികളില്ലാത്ത ക്ലാസ് റൂമിൽ എങ്ങനെ പഠനം മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകുമെന്ന് ആശങ്കപ്പെട്ടുവെങ്കിലും ഇന്ന് നാം അതിനെയൊക്കെ അതിജീവിച്ചു. വിവര സാങ്കേതിക മേഖലയിൽ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളും അധ്യാപകരും ഒരുപോലെ എക്സ്പേർട്ടായി. ആരംഭകാലത്ത് നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിലെ IQAC ടീം വളരെ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ നമ്മുടെ ടീച്ചേഴ്സിന് എങ്ങനെ നൂതന സാങ്കേതിക വിദ്യകളിലൂടെ പഠനം എളുപ്പമാക്കാം എന്നതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് വളരെ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ ഒരു FDP പ്രോഗ്രാം സംഘടിപ്പിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. ഇന്ന് എല്ലാ മേഖലകളിലും മികവുറ്റ റിസോഴ്സ് പേഴ്സണെ കണ്ടുപിടിച്ച് ഒരു ആഴ്ച നീണ്ടു നിൽക്കുന്ന FDP പ്രോഗ്രാം വീണ്ടും IQAC തന്നെ നേതൃത്വം നൽകിക്കൊണ്ട് നടത്തുകയാണ്. അതിന്റെ ആരംഭ ദിനമാണ് ഇന്ന്. ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് ലഭിച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന റിസോഴ്സ് പേഴ്സൺ പ്രൊഫസർ ഡോക്ടർ എം ഭാസിയാണ്. ഇന്നത്തെ വിഷയവും വളരെ ആപ്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു വിഷയമാണ്. ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ ഏറ്റവും മികവുറ്റതാക്കണമെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ റോൾ എന്താണെന്ന് എന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ് ഇന്ന് ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഇത് നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഉപകാരപ്രദമായ ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഒരു കെട്ടിടം മാത്രമല്ല ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. അതിലെ മാൻ പവർ ആണ് ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനം. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇത് ഏറ്റവും അധികം യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴാണ് ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ അതിന്റെ ഉന്നതിയിലേക്ക് എത്തുന്നത്. ഇന്ന് ഈ വിഷയത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് നമ്മോട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ എത്തിയ പ്രൊഫസർ ഡോക്ടർ എം ഭാസിയെ സെവേറിയൻ ഫാമിലിയുടെ പേരിൽ, മാനേജ്മെന്റിന്റെ പേരിൽ ഹൃദയപൂർവ്വം ഞാൻ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഒപ്പം ഈ ഒരാഴ്ച നീണ്ടു നിൽക്കുന്ന FDP പ്രോഗ്രാമിന് എല്ലാ നന്മകളും ഉണ്ടാകട്ടെ എന്ന് ആശംസിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നിർത്തുന്നു. നന്ദി.
Thank you, sister. We are indeed privileged to have Dr. M. Bhasi, Professor of Management Studies, QSAT Kochi, as our chief guest and resource person. I invite Professor Dr. M. Bhasi for the official inauguration of FDP Expertise and to begin the Expertise series with his talk on role of teachers in building institution. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I will first speak a few words of inauguration and then go on to my presentation on the topic. Respected Dr. Sister Gigi Jonama Xavier, Principal, Dr. Sister Stella K, Vice Principal, organizing committee members led by Dr. Sheena Xavier, IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Aparna Lakshmanan, NAC Coordinator, Ms. Binu Korea, Joint Coordinator, and others. It is indeed an apt topic that has been taken for this FDP. The role of teachers in institution building cannot be overemphasized. Teachers are the key resource people, the people who will get affected most in the long run by the development of the institution. Students are affected, but different batches of students come in and go at different times. They don't stay in the system for as long as teachers do. So teachers are a very big stakeholder in the system. And they are also the biggest resource pool in the system. And therefore, there should not be any doubt about the importance of the role of teachers in building institutions. I congratulate the organizers for choosing such an apt topic and also thank them for giving me this opportunity. I declare the FDP inaugurated. And I will now go into my presentation and take you through my ideas on the subject by showing you a presentation also. Hope the presentation is visible.
Yes, sir.
Let me try to drive home the importance of planning. I will use a quote to do that. It is given as a second point in my presentation. Those who fail to plan, plan to fail. That is what is said about planning, importance of planning. Those who fail to plan, plan to fail. An institution is too important a thing to leave to chance for its growth and development. You can't just leave it to luck and chance for its growth and development. We have to work towards it. And therefore, conscious effort has to be taken for institutional planning. And institutional planning is the first phase of institution building. With even the physical building, you make a plan first and only then build. So institution planning, not for the building construction alone, for everything regarding the institution, planning is essential. Institution planning is the lowest level of national planning. It is integrated with national planning because national plan has to trickle down into operations, into smaller and smaller components. And one of the smallest components in the education system is the institution plan. This plan, institution plan, refers to a detailed program of action that is initiated, formulated, and implemented by the educational institution. What is institutional planning? Institutional planning is a program of development and improvement. So planning is not about closing things, destroying things. Planning is about development and improvement prepared by an educational institution. So it is not given to you by someone else. It should be prepared by you on the basis of felt needs. So it is driven by the needs. Yes, constrained by the resources, constrained by. Needs might be sky high, but if resources are limited, plan will have to be faced and limited to resources, or resources must be generated. But then when planning, an idea of the resources or resource generation should also be on the planning table. That's why resources available or likely to be available with a view to improving the school program and this is college program and college practices. That constitutes a plan of an institution and is based on, you have multiple possibilities. The choice of this possibility is based on optimum utilization of resources. Optimum utilization of resources is kept in mind when making the plan. Now to come to the topic of the importance of teachers in an institution. You will all agree that teachers form a key permanent entity. Key permanent entity. Because in the system, the most permanent entity, though nothing is permanent really, but the most permanent entity will be the building. Because in the same building, many teachers will join and retire. But thereafter, among the human resources, teachers will form a very important human resource. Even during the period of the working of a teacher, many of the leaders, managers, principals will come and go. A teacher will have a long life in the system. And the teachers plays a most important role in the service delivery, education service delivery. Teacher plays a very key role. And the teacher is also in intimate contact with all other entities. Teachers have intimate contact with the students. Teachers have intimate contact with the leaders, principal, vice principal, people in the office, managers. They are in touch with that. They are in touch with the other resources, physical resources, books, library, and other systems, and even parents, recruiters, and other people. So teachers form a central key stakeholders who have the chance to have the greatest understanding about the system. They are also the drivers of the system. They are the people who drive the system, provide the service. Teachers are the people who are most respected, and they have the capability also to do things. They are educated, they are trained, and they have the capability. But at times, there are some lacunae also. One is a lack of motivation. Some teachers think that this is not my job. My job is just to go to the class, teach, and come back, do the evaluation, submit the marks. A very, very small view of the role of a teacher. Very small view of the role of the teacher. That is, of course, the central and most essential role, but that is a very small part of the actual role that can be played by a teacher. The other two roles are helping the students build themselves, discover themselves, grow. That is, playing a role in their lives, not only in their learning, but also playing a role in their lives. That is the second role. And the third role is institutional development. And colleague and faculty development. That will come in institutional development. And teamwork skills, because this I emphasize on team working skills, because in our education system, we are trained to become individually successful people. Or your learning has to be individual, your exams are individual, your tests are individual. So we are trained to work best at individual levels. We don't get too much training to work as a team. So our teamwork skills vary a lot from person to person. I repeat, our team working skills vary a lot from person to person. Whereas our other intellectual skills don't vary as much. So there is need to overcome this barrier and get our team working skills improved. The key knowledge areas. If teachers have to come into institution planning, which they have to, why? For their own good as well as for the good of the institution. Because the institution becoming more and more higher rated, then the people there working there also get rated higher. Get more opportunities. You get better students, which results in your output also of being of better quality. So by increasing the goodness of the institution, teachers have only to gain. And for gaining this, the job of developing the institution should not be seen as the job of the management and the principal, vice principal. They are mostly for administration and giving leadership. Of course, giving leadership, but the leader cannot go about doing everything by himself or herself. The doers have to be large in number. And if the doers agree with the plan, nothing like it. If the plan of development is that of the principal and the teachers don't think that that is too good, then it is unlikely that the teachers will implement it with full heart and effort. So, playing a role in planning the development of institution and thereafter in implementing that plan is the best possible combination. In order that teachers develop the capability of involving in institution planning, there are certain skill sets, certain areas where they should develop themselves. I have listed some of the areas. This is not exhaustive, but it is indicative and contains most of the things. I will deal with each one separately. First is the pedagogy. Sister Principal was mentioning the impact of COVID and the need, suddenly imposed need, not need planned by choice, but the imposed need of conducting classes online, forcing the teachers to acquire the skill quickly. There are certain important things in forced choices. Forced choices get implemented faster because it is implement to survive. The question of survival. So it gets implemented faster. But the problem is how it gets implemented and the height level to which that implementation reaches. The heights to which the implementation reaches need not be the top, because once you reach a satisfactory level, post implementation efforts, you stop. You don't try to excel. When you reach satisfactory level, you stop. So a similar thing has happened in the use of online teaching as a pedagogical method. Most people have learned the basics and reached a satisfactory level and have stopped there. If it were a matter of choice, then you would have taken these things to a much higher level. Much higher level where the effectiveness, efficiency would be much greater. That was just connecting it with the times of today in the pandemic. There is a problem which is related to teachers in higher education. We teachers in higher education, we included, we have got no formal training in pedagogy. We were trained in our domain, our subject. That is the training we have got. In fact, not training, I would say, we have learned our subject. We have learned our subjects and performed decently in evaluations. We have learned our subjects, performed decently in evaluations, both the degree level evaluation and national tests and other interviews which were part of our selection process, and therefore we have become teachers, but are not trained formally for becoming teachers, except for the orientation and refresher courses conducted by the HRD cells in universities which give some exposure to pedagogy. But understanding pedagogy is important. And in pedagogy, because this is important because the classroom, the society of today and the society 10, 15 years back in terms of availability of information, how to store and retrieve information, how to use information to learn and use information in life. Those methods have changed drastically. Between 20 years back and 50 years back or 100 years back, the change was not as much. What I mean to say is the change in the last 10 to 20 years and the change during just before 20 years and 100 years, between 100 years and the 80th year, the change was not as much as between 80th year and now. So when the times change, especially times change and how information and knowledge, dissemination, creation, storage, usage happens, changes directly, it impacts education. And if newer and better and more efficient methods are available, the education systems should be develop capability of transforming their pedagogy and using such systems also. I'm not talking about replacement, I'm talking about adding usage of these resources. So a relook at the pedagogy is very important. And when pedagogy changes, the skill of the teacher to use the new pedagogy methods should also be upgraded. Many a time we resist certain changes because we are not comfortable with using those approaches. I'm not saying that you should be changing forcibly for the sake of changing. No, but you should not be closing your mind to change because you're comfortable with what you're doing today. So changing knowledge resources are there, changing access methods are there, changing interaction and learning methods are there, changing evaluation methods are there. Changing employer requirements are also there. This should result in more of a relook and optimization of our pedagogy. On the evaluation front, again, we were also evaluated by our teachers, and that is the basis of our understanding of evaluation. The science of evaluation, the newer methods and the possibilities, different possibilities of evaluation, combined techniques, we are very, very slow to have a look at this. Industry and many testing agencies, they use more of the modern methods. In the academics also should be slowly experimenting with newer methods for which we should know about evaluation as a subject. Not just our subject domain, we should know about evaluation, about theory, principles of evaluation, methods of evaluation, their advantages, disadvantages, how to implement them, and so on. Changing skill requirements to be tested, because most of our evaluation methods just test recall rate, memory recall, accuracy is what is tested. At times, some understanding, but beyond which we are very, because that is the level to which we are able to take. And if you don't test a particular skill, the students will not try to reach that skill level. If it is not tested, no one is checking, they will not try to reach that level. That is the The importance of testing is only up to the level which testing is done. If you say that from this chapter, no questions will be asked, students won't read that chapter. Simple as that. So if you want skill sets to come in, those skills should be tested also. Changing number of learners, because the demand is high, class size will increase, so numbers will change. And with these numbers, the difficulty of testing is there. Changing timelines for evaluation. Should you do once in a end of 6 months only an evaluation, 2 evaluations in between, more often, continuous monitoring? We have to think of that. We have to understand about evaluation. Then this is internal core things. Pedagogy, evaluation was about our teaching to the core. In that also we have to try to improve. Then for our planning activities, we have to have a watch on global developments and see how does it concern us, how will it affect us, our students. Because most of the students are not going to end up as teachers. They are going to out into the world to find a job and to do some work. So they are going to be impacted more by changes in the world. And in Kerala, many of them are going to work abroad also. So being global is very important. Understanding what is happening elsewhere is important, so that we slowly move, adjust for that, adjust positively, and move towards that in our plans. We have to learn to understand what is happening. Then we have to learn to discuss, gather inputs, understand, then discuss to find what is the higher impact thing, what is the lower impact thing, and for this impact, what should we do? Align our institutional policies, I'm sorry about the spelling, policies and programs with this. Then learn to extract the maximum gains at institutional and department levels. If you align and are able to respond quicker to global changes and global demands, then your students will gain, you will gain, institution will gain. An institution which was very slow to react, a laggard, will remain back. So be among the institutions which are fast to react. From global, we have to come to national also. I told you, planning at national level, the smallest unit is the institution. Education gets a lot of attention both at national and state level. And the priorities set at these levels have to be understood by us. And as far as possible, we should align towards that. Why is this necessary? First, if you align and you are showing that you are aligned, you get better scores in your accreditation and rankings. Because here is an institute which has taken these from the national policies, they have incorporated it in their plans, and they are implementing it. Good institution. You will get higher scores. You will get more support. If you need a funding for a laboratory in a thrust area which is there in the national education policy, you apply for it and you are more likely to get it. If your area of priority is not a national priority and then you ask for support, the chance of you getting is very poor. That is because nation also wants and you are doing it. So you are supporting the nation, you ask for money, you ask for support, you get it. Nation wants something and you are doing the opposite, you are left to yourself. You don't get support. So it is important to understand what are the thrust areas at national level and learn to contribute in your plan. Show that this is how we have picked up these and then we have decided to enhance that, contribute to that national policy and national priority by doing this. Also discuss, align your institutional policies, programs, and if you do alignment, you will get maximum gains during your rankings. Stakeholder needs and concerns. Because nation is big, the world is large. You have to live in a micro area as an institution. So you have to identify your stakeholders, teachers, employers, society around, parents, students, management, everything. You have to identify the stakeholders, identify their needs, try to put it down, prioritize the needs, trying to identify conflicting needs, resolve conflicts, because some people might want more leisure. For example, student will say, now we are going to have 6-day working. They say 5 days is good enough. 2 days we need to relax and study. So if they express that only less time they are willing to spend, and then the syllabus requirement, content requirement is more for achieving the better quality degree and better quality skills, we have to, these are opposite. So we have to find a balance and try to decide what are our programs and how to implement. You have to, after understanding the stakeholder needs, these needs have to be listed, communicate back to them, have we understood you correctly? And then between these needs, these are the priorities, these are the constraints. Or you want a big hostel, AC hostel, but then funding is a problem. For that, if you can get some funding, we will be able to think of it. But now with this funding, we can only do this. It has to be made communicated why certain stakeholder demands could be taken, why certain could not be taken, and so on. And the plans need to be made and communicate the plan and implement. And measure the how well the plans were implemented and report. This measurement, making plans, communicating, measuring, reporting, this documentation work is important. That is what these accreditation agencies want to look at. How were these processes done? You have to show how you address your stakeholder needs. That is why NAC calls for records regarding parent-teacher meeting, meeting with employers, and from the employer meeting, what did you get? What points did you get? Were these points taken care of in the syllabus rectification? Were the points taken care of in the pedagogy? You have to show a linkage between these and your actions. Local needs and customization. At national level, there is plan. At university level, there is syllabus, programs, which is for a large geography. Now your college is at a particular level. And you have a batch of students with certain competencies, certain requirements. So you have to customize these things, regulations and framework under which you work. Within that, you have to customize for your local needs. Customize doesn't always mean reducing, diluting. Please understand that. Customize does not always mean diluting. Customize also means adding. Because some of your students, for example, their language and communication skill is poor. There's nothing in the syllabus forcing you to do communication skills. But then the students need it badly to get a job. You could have something add on as a part of customization so that that need is taken care of. So for local needs also, understand the local needs, prioritize the needs, understand the constraints of resources constraints, and make plans and programs which will address these needs within the constraints. Communicate and implement, measure and report. Always these measure and report, communicate and implement. Very important. Communication. I have seen in some campus grounds, suddenly a building is coming up somewhere. A JCB has come to dig. No one knows what is happening. And someone will say it's a new canteen. Someone will say it's a new hostel. Someone will say it is something else. This goes on. It is better to communicate. If it is this kind of a building, this is what it is. How do you communicate? Nowadays, government has started doing it. They've put a board, big board, in front of the site saying this is this building, tendered to this contractor for this much amount with this kind of facilities being coming up. So this communication puts down curiosity of people. They get the actual what is happening. Another skill to develop, I had talked about this, is teamwork and problem solving skill. Understand the task requirement. Project, what is the task given? So for example, one team is made to gather information from employers. Another team to gather information, feedback from alumni. So that the task at hand is gather information and feedback from employers. So for different departments, find the employers. Get them willing to share information. So then you understand the employers, how do I find better to work through alumni? Because alumni are employed. So contact alumni team. Alumni team has collected alumni details. From them, collect the employer details. Get the alumni employers, the alumni to persuade the employers to give some feedback. So understand the task requirement, understand the resource pool, and then there is something called team building. Team building. Just put names of 4 teachers on the board saying these people are the team. Will they form team or are they still individuals? They will be individuals doing some task together. They will not become a team doing the task together. They will be individuals doing the task together. That is just like 4 teachers' names were put. For Onam, they will perform Tiruvadirakali. And they were told 15 minutes before the program is to start. So they won't have the costume. They don't have the resources. They have not gelled as a team. They don't know what are the steps. Some people might be proficient, some might not be. So there is no practice, no gelling together. So the performance will not be. So similarly, for a task also, teams have to be formed, teams have to be built, brought together, built, and then if they work, the results are better. So teachers have to develop their understanding of team building, team working. Because team working is very different from working individually. And but still I have seen in many terms that is what happens. There is a team, but only 1 or 2 people in the team do all the work. Other people just sign the report in the end. Why? Because we don't know how to work in team. So essentially we work individually. Or as a team, we just divide the work into all this and then put the thing together. We don't integrate it, we put the thing together. So working as a team is art, and there are a lot of things to learn on how to work well in a team. And I initially suggest there is something called quality circles. If you Google, you will get quality circles. Just quality circles are teams which work in industries, voluntary teams which work for problem solving in industries. The techniques they use, the methods they use are all available in literature. If you can go through some of that or use that in a training program on team building, it will help in understanding, for the team leader to understand how I should be a leader, for the members to understand how should I work together in a team, especially the behavioral aspects. Team processes and team working, results and documentation of the team, knowledge management. The knowledge gained by the team when doing this work has to become knowledge of the institution, not with that person is gone, so then we don't know how we did it. Recognition and rewards, very important for any motivating people individually also and as in teams also. Then there is a very important domain, another important domain, which is project planning and implementation. Large things or slightly complex tasks. For example, setting up a lab. It can be, new lab can be thought of as a project. And if you manage it as a project using project management techniques, you will find that the whole work, the effort put in was lesser, it was efficient, it was effective, it was done in time, outcomes were achieved, and cost was also reduced. So project management is a discipline. It is used for large projects. But then the concepts, if you use for smaller projects also, it gives you benefits. So teachers who are involved in these activities should be trained in, small training will do, just 1 day training will do. So that the basics, if you understand, then you can do these projects, small projects that has to be implemented as a part of institutional development. You can do the project management well. Basically, project management cycle is consists of initiate the project, plan, execute, monitor and control, and then close. Three very important things to monitor are: a project has to achieve the outcomes. Whatever you wanted from the project should be achieved. Then it should achieve this within the planned time and with the estimated budget. If it costs 2 times the budget and took double the time to complete, we won't say it is a successful project. A successful project is one which meets the outcomes or achieves the outcomes within budget, within time. And most of the time, this outcomes is the only thing we worry about. We forget about the money and we forget about how much long it took to complete it. Time and money both are also important in project management. And how to manage these three together is the thing to be learned in project management. Plan the project activities and schedule them and get these activities done on time. Measure progress, and if it is stalling, replan and do things and complete the project. Doing a research project is also a project. Many a times it goes on endless because of this planning problem also, not only because of planning problem, but planning is one of the key problems because of which many of our projects get delayed and don't get completed on time, and outcomes are also not achieved properly. Documentation and assessment. Documentation should become a habit. We have to understand the assessment system that we are going before. And understanding the system, we have to understand what are the documentation, what are the criteria they look for. And for the criteria, they will have sub-criteria. And for the sub-criteria, where they will have factors which need elaboration. And for this elaboration, they need documentation. For example, student progression. So how many people applied for 30 seats? Then how many people of this 30 who joined in the first year passed and went into the second year? How many to the third year? In which class? First class, and so on. How many of them got campus placement? How many got job within 1 year of passing out? And so on. Student progression, how many joined research? How many joined PG? In the same institution, how many left for different national institutions? Progression. So we need to stay connected with our stakeholders and have this documentation. When your students pass NET or JRF and they inform you on the WhatsApp or Facebook, please make sure that with the congratulatory message, ask for a copy of their award letter also, so that your documentation also is done as life progresses, not 6 months before the accreditation we try to do all this. When we try to do all this, we find that we don't have access to many of the materials which we could have used. We don't have access at that point of time. So make it a habit to collect, and the assessment things changes slightly only. Most of the factors are there. So if you make it a habit of collecting and keeping records continuously, updating and keeping records continuously, then just at the time of NAC accreditation or an IRF ranking, you won't have too much trouble. And that is what is intended to be carried out through IQAC and NAC committees in colleges. So you have to understand and plan to get the best assessment scores. How will you get the best assessment scores? We will do this on publications, we will improve and come to this level. On infrastructure, we will do this. Collect data to substantiate the claims. Present the data and the institution for assessment. Earlier times, you just have to send the data. Checking, the team will come and just, if you make them happy, you will get a good grade. You have things, plus make them happy, you will get good grades. Now, it is not so. You have to provide data, and even AI and other methods are used to check your data for correctness and accuracy. And you are given up to 70% of the points is based on the data that you have provided, which is checked not by NAC but by other agencies. And then you get assessed. Only 30% can be given by the visiting teams. So things are changing. So importance of keeping data is also very, very important. Then use the assessment feedbacks and experience to improve in the next cycle. So, because the feedback is very important thing in development. So this assessment forms, and there will be internal feedbacks from your stakeholders, but then an external feedback, a very important external feedback comes in the form of ranking and feedback. Use it to improve. I have said what I have wanted to. By my watch, it is 3:59. Now I will take some questions, either by voice or in the chat box. This is a factor which we can see in our state. Our students also will not ask questions after a session. Our teachers will also not ask questions. No one will ask question. If this same session were conducted in Mumbai, in Delhi, with people from there, they would have stopped me in between and asked questions. So we should train our students also to think, ask questions, and to train them, we have to be examples. We also have to do that. Not just asking question for evaluation, but asking question for discussions. We are good at asking questions for evaluation. Asking questions for discussion is another skill.
Sir, there is a question.
So how to time between other activities? See, time management is a very important skill that everyone needs. Prime Minister Modi also has 24 hours in his day. Just because he is Prime Minister, he doesn't get 40 hours in a day. Everyone on the earth gets only 24 hours in a day. But everyone gets different amounts of things to complete in this 24 hours. And they are doing it. So we have to learn how to, one of the things that, a few tips. One, learn to distinguish between important and urgent. Learn to distinguish between important and urgent. I'm having a lower stomach pain, slight pain steadily for say 1 week. It suggests that I should go for a checkup, check my bowels, kidney, and things like that. There is nothing urgent about it. Nothing will happen to me in 1 or 2 or 2 days. But it is a very, very important thing. But my bladder is full and I would like to visit the washroom. It is not a very important thing, but it is very urgent. So most of us don't do important things. We do only the urgent things. We spend time for urgent things and keep on doing whatever seems urgent. And the important things in our life get missed. So teaching, there will be a schedule, there will be urgency for that. It is important also, there will be urgency. Do it, but then don't expand it. It can be done in different ways. Don't expand it too much to fill your 12 hours plus available for working, so that there is no time left for anything else. All your PPT, teaching material, don't build from scratch. Search, get a good starting point material. Build upon that, customize for yourself. So you have reduced the time which you will require to do that work. If you try to build everything from scratch and you are going on giving color, this color not good for PPT, changing the color, again experimenting, you can take a lot of time to prepare that. But how much is it going to impact the real contribution? So be efficient in your work and don't you let things interrupt you. For example, calls, if you are in something important and you're writing something which needs a clarity of thought and a chain of thought. Keep yourself switched off at that time. Don't answer calls in between and then your thoughts go astray and then you have to recollect, and what you could have written in 1 hour, you take 3 hours to write. So there are efficient methods of doing things. You adopt that methods and prioritize, especially between urgent and important things. Important but not at all urgent things, don't leave it. Don't let it get postponed, and it never gets done. And a very urgent thing, try to do it very beautifully, do well, and it is urgent, but it's not going to contribute too much to your life and to your betterment. So let us understand these fundamental concepts also. There are a lot more. Look at resources on time management and it will give you a lot of inputs. And today there are so many resources available. You look at it and pick and choose the points which you love. from different resources on time management. Some points that you think you can adapt and use in your life, take it and use it. That is how we will, because there are a lot of learning resources available. It is not just limited to training sessions and class and things like that today. Did I answer you to some degree of satisfaction?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Some of the concepts I brought were what we use in management. Management is just common sense put into practice. But then given different terms are given, obviously you give names to different concepts and then you organize them a little better, but it is basically common sense. And the best method is take stock. Each one of us take stock. I have given an indicative list of things that you should know about. So how good am I at understanding pedagogy? Pedagogy, not that I use different types of pedagogy and their goodness, their limitations. How much do I understand evaluation methods? Other than that, what I use. So on each of these, how much do I understand? What is going to help me? Which of them is going to help me in near future, in a little distant future, in long term? Make a set of what you should be doing, picking out from this. Not do everything all to go onwards, not at all. Pick and choose, make a plan for yourself, development plan for yourself, and start acting on it. Start acting. That is very important. Otherwise, endless planning is of no use. And help each other help each other, discuss among. I saw on time management this video, they had said these points. Discuss. So many people know. Why attend a class? Class attending is boring. But around the lunch table discussion and sharing this, it will go into the mind and it will, a culture like that will develop. I once commented about QSAT and many people did not like it. I said that when I joined QSAT in 1990, and at that time there was only PG courses, except for BTech in naval architecture and shipbuilding. There were no BTech courses. And during that time, when moving around in the campus, I said, I never overheard people, except for some teachers, discussing academics when they are walking on the street or in the canteen or no other place. I've never overheard anyone discussing academics. But then in 98, BTech started. And students from North India started coming to QSAT to study. And these North Indian students, when they are going from on the street, they will say, drawing sheet banaya. This drawing sheet, did you draw? Did you solve that problem? They are discussing academics. None of our students here, they are discussing Mohanlal, they are discussing the dress that girl in their class had worn on that day. And all those things they are discussing, but academics, no. And this is also true to a great extent among teachers. Outside, in meeting on some, we might discuss academics, but then outside that culture, whereas in the Western country, over the tea, serious research is being discussed. Very rarely will gossip be discussed. Very rarely. Most of the time in an academic institution, academics will be discussed. And we have to also try to build this culture. Not that remove gossip. Gossip is very good. It feeds your emotions a lot. Have some of it, but not fill the whole time with that.
Thank you, sir. We have to develop that culture.
Institution building, no, culture is the driving stone of institution. So the cultural setting, if it changes, rest of the things will slowly follow. If teachers are discussing this a lot, then the students will also try to come and say certain things like that. Maybe to impress the teachers, but slowly it will become a habit for them also. If there are no questions, shall I say thank you for giving me the opportunity? We will have more, already small, we will have more times to interact. And I always admire your college and the progress it is making, the contribution it is giving to the society, and always will be willing to lend a helping hand whenever required. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Aparna Lakshmanan, our NAC coordinator, for the vote of thanks.
Respected Principal, Dr. Sister Gigi Janama Xavier, Chief Guest of the Day, Professor M. Bhasi, IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Sheena Xavier, Vice Principal, Dr. Sister Stella, and my dear colleagues. First of all, let me thank our dear Principal, Dr. Sister Gigi Janama Xavier. She was having a very important meeting during this time, and still she managed to join us and spend a few minutes with us. In her absence, I thank her for being a great support for all activities of IQAC. Professor M. Bhasi. Bhasi sir is known to me since 2000 when I joined for PG at CUSAT. And from day one onwards, I'm a big fan of him. He is a man of common sense. As he had pointed out during our interactive session, management is nothing but common sense. So now I can relate. Yeah, he's a management faculty and he's a man of common sense. I consider it as a privilege to thank Professor M. Bhasi on behalf of IQAC and all the faculty members present here. Thank you, sir. As Bhasi sir had pointed out, failing to plan is planning to fail. The planning behind this FDP was completely done by Dr. Sheena Xavier, of course, with the support of the entire IQAC team. For formality's sake, let me thank you, ma'am, for organizing such an FDP for us and for today's session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aparna.
Let me also thank all the faculty members here. We were in a hurry to join the meeting. We were having regular classes up to 1:30, and I think almost all of us had managed to join on time at 3 p.m. itself. So on behalf of IQAC, I thank all the faculty members for being present here and for making the session a success. Once again, thank you, each and every one of you. I conclude.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have come to the end of today's session. Tomorrow we have an interesting session titled Guiding 21st Century Learners by Dr. T.C. Thangachan, Vice Principal, St. Thomas College, Pala, at 5 p.m. See you all tomorrow. Thank you so much.